volleyball, basketball, track and field. All sports that if you can jump higher, it's gonna make you a better competitor. And if you play any of those sports, or if you just want to jump high for the sake of jumping high, this video is for you. This is us coaching athletes just like you, one-on-one, answering their questions, whatever it is, and anything pertaining increasing your vertical jump. Go grab something to eat, pull out a notebook, because I guarantee there's going to be something in this video that is going to help you jump higher.
Tested my vertical for the last 2 weeks. Been really struggling with it after the last 2 cycles. Was feeling a bit rusty with technique as well because I only did sprinting for the last 2 cycles. That's completely normal. All right, you got to do the thing to get better at the thing. Started a new cycle this week, and I'm seeing a lot of volume. And on my jump days, there's only a 20-minute warm-up. Keep jumping on the jump days. A lot of times we don't put it on there just because we just know you guys are gonna jump. So keep doing your jump sessions. Just because it says just the warm-up, that's do the warm-up, then go do your regular jump sessions on those days. And you should, even if your training doesn't have jumping explicitly stated on there, we still want you guys jumping. Just ask the coaches in your group chat what day is ideal for you. Doesn't mean I'm only going to try to focus on my technique instead of maxing it out. Nah, keep doing the jump sessions. In terms of cueing for clean, should I try to jump early with the bar after my double knee bend and then pull myself under the bar? You're overthinking it. I literally just want you to think, be patient with the pull, get the knees back. As soon as the bar gets to above your kneecap, jump as hard as you can and keep your arms straight. And then once you're at full triple extension, I call this the dance move. John, we need to give this dance move a name. This.
Like a
We need to get it. So once you're here at triple extension, that's when you literally bend your knees, you hinge, you bend while bending the arms, right? So it's arms straight, arms straight, arms straight, arms straight, dance moves. Okay. Right now, I'm pulling my arms too early and it feels like it's leading a lot of energy leakage. Yeah, so you need to really exaggerate that too. How should I approach the next volleyball season with lifting? First thing, I'm going to answer the question, but the first thing I want you to do is go to school, go to classroom, and click the in-season guide. It's going to give you a lot of information on how to adjust your training if you're in season. I've been doing cycles of lifting thrice a week without jumping much. And when I return to volleyball, I would like to attend at least 3 or 4 practices a week without stopping to lift. If this is possible for some athletes, you're not going to know if you can until you try it. The biggest thing is just staying healthy. And then what is your priority? If your priority is to jump high in season, then you want to just do one of the lifts per week, essentially, to maintain strength and understand that your strength levels are going to drop off as the season goes. If your goal is to play volleyball and jump higher and you don't care if your performance decreases in your games, then you can do the training in conjunction with the volleyball as long as you're healthy, as long as you can stay injury free. And then if you're hurt, then your priority essentially is feel good lifting while in season. Depending on which of those 3 you are, just tell the coaches in the chat and they'll adjust the training accordingly. Also, how should I go about sprinting? I've been skipping it because of no available space in the gym. And if I do them outside and do lifts 7 hours later, that's actually the ideal. Oh, wait, you think your knee will explode? All right, just take them out. You think your knee is going to explode? Separating the sessions like that and just skip them. Focus on playing your sport. If I have 10x2 power snatch, but it aggravates my right shoulder because of injury and overuse, what should I substitute with? You can do either substitute them for power cleans or you can do snatch pulls. Is it a good idea to program another jump session in on Saturday? I'm 14 and don't have knee pain. I would like to jump more. Yes, do it. You're like, you just checked all the check boxes right there. No injury. You're young. Outputs are low. You can add more jump sessions. I'm on load management right now, trying to jump twice per week on Monday and Thursday and always lift the day after. Yeah, I would just add a very short session on Saturday, like maybe like 15 to 20 minutes, and then increase the time week to week. Hey boys, my basketball season started a couple weeks ago, and before that I was starting to get back to jumping twice a week after a long time rehabbing patellar and quad tendinopathy. Practices are Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and I've been doing just Monday and Thursday, then slow lifting the day after practices. I had to cut out cleans. My issue is I can never make it through a Thursday practice without pain, and I have to cut it early, but I'm able to bounce back and return to baseline for Monday practice.
But before we get into that, guys, have you learned something? If you've learned anything at all, I urge you, go to thpstrength.com. You can try our coaching out. Ask us questions directly for only $12. This is access to the best vertical jump coaches on the planet, the best vertical jump training on the planet for just $12, guys, on your first month. That's a 90% discount during month 1 for a limited time only. So go take advantage, thpstrength.com. See you on the other side. Now back to the video.
That's actually a good sign. That reminds me a lot of Nasir, John, an athlete we used to coach in season. Yeah. He basically, we would coach him and we told them to expect to be hurting by the end of the week. But as long as you can return back to baseline by Monday, and you compare your pain scores Monday to Monday and they're staying the same, and your function is going up, right? Your lifts are progressing, and you're practicing more intensity and that type of thing. That's actually a really good spot to be in. And it's kind of how I treat sessions too. I'm always, and John can tell you the same thing, all the guys we're coaching, we're always banged up after jump day. Like that Saturday lift was always doesn't feel too fun. Sunday we're pretty banged up, but then Monday we're back to baseline, and that's okay. Where you start running into issues is if Monday to Monday you're getting worse and getting worse and getting worse. So that's honestly, I wouldn't change anything. You're not in a position where you can add training load or add intensity. I would honestly maybe even try to decrease intensity either in the practice or in the lifting a little bit, but you're not in a bad spot at all. My thoughts are to cut out Thursday for now and just practice Mondays, keep slow lifting twice a week, see if I improve with that. Yeah, so if you're in season, I would go with that option for sure, and then ramp back up at the end of the season. But again, you're in a spot where technically you could change nothing and not end up dying by the end of the season.
I think that jumping every day is always a bad idea. I think it's always fun to try for guys, but I think it's generally not smart. Mr. Cat Bounce has been like, all you got to do is jump every day. And I jokingly told Fabian, I was like, that's not possible. I don't know why people think it's possible. But yeah,
Possible for a little bit.
yeah, you can do it for a little bit until you get hurt. So you're in a flare up. I would do cut the sprints, cut the jumping for about a week or two, and then do slow calf raises and isos, and it'll probably go away within a week. Oh yeah, it's because your plyo volume's so high. So that's why there's no jumping. Eventually it'll come in on Thursdays, but you're going from general to specific. The most specific thing is dunking. So that's going to come in the latest. You've been dunking a lot. So if you want to do sessions in place of the plyos, you can, but it will probably lead to some slower gains in the long term. What jump height in inches is too high to jump every day without injury? Cool. Probably like past, it's a weight and height thing. So I would say height, like once you start getting past 30 and over like 130 pounds, problems start to arise. If you're under 130 pounds or like 150, then it's maybe like 35. If you're 180, it's like 34, I'd say. Like it goes down, goes the other way, then it's like 30. And it also depends on your load capacity. So like Isaiah could probably, he's light, but he jumps super high. His ceiling is super high, so he can handle a lot more low volume jumping. We call it max vertical reserve. So it's just very dependent on the person. Why do workouts go power movement, squat, or whatever, hinge, calf, etc. Out of curiosity, what's the purpose behind starting workouts with a deadlift variation? I know mechanically it emphasizes the quad more than conventional, but any other reasons? So if you're on a cycle where there's sumo deadlifts, there's only two mesocycles where I do that. One specifically is Zay 7. Zay 7 I integrated when we were trying to build up general volume. So for that period of time, we're not trying to do things that are hyper specific. We're trying to do things that are different or address deficits or address movements that we don't usually do. And so that's why it's in there. Once you move into the other cycles, it'll start to switch and you'll start to do more pulling in terms of ollies. And I don't mix deads and ollies because you're already pulling from the floor. So there's no sense in trying to do deads plus ollies. I've seen Tom Barnes do it a lot, and I actually very much disagree with it. He's fucked up his back a handful of times by doing it, and I would not recommend doing the same thing. Can I do a run in the morning? Yeah, it'll negatively impact your training. I would not run in the morning. If your meniscus hurts, it's probably because the volume's too high. You're essentially adding 40,000 steps, if you're running a 10K each morning. It's good for body composition, really bad for jumping higher. If you do the training correctly and to a T, you're probably going to end up losing fat mass anyways, because I'm assuming that's why you're doing it. Now, if you just really genuinely like it and you don't care as much about your gains, you can. We see CrossFit athletes blend endurance running and strength work all the time. I've been training with THB for 7 months. On Sunday, I suffered what appears to be a grade 2 hamstring. I've looked at the school protocol, gone to an orthopedist. Are there any physical benchmarks that I have to meet before I return? Imbalances, strength, what jump performance, how do I know when it's time to come back? I personally use pain as a guide. And that's the easiest and best thing you can do. What I'd recommend doing is unloading your hamstring completely. Actually, I think oftentimes when guys load the hamstring too frequently, they tend to pull their hamstrings more. And so you have to keep in mind a few things with hamstring pulls. One, age, the frequency or the timeline from your most recent previous hamstring pull. And then are you sprinting a lot and are you really fast? Those are what's going to dictate, are you going to pull your hamstring again? Take all of those things out. And then you need to slowly reintegrate them as you see fit when they're pain free. If it's a grade 2 hamstring pull, that's pretty severe. You're probably going to need a grade 1's like 2 weeks. Grade 2 is like 4 to 6, maybe 8. So like bare minimum that. And then past that, it's going to be based on function. Like, are you feeling pain? If you are, you probably shouldn't do whatever you think you should do, like whatever you're thinking about doing. The faster it is, the more intense it's going to be. So in short, the physical benchmark is, are you feeling pain when you do an isometric or you load it? If you were to do a high knee drill or a butt kick or a kick out, or you were to try to jump, would you feel it? If you do, you probably shouldn't be jumping. Past like, if you sometimes like past 8 weeks, you'll have some neural leftover sensations. If that's the case, then you want to slowly reintegrate jumping because you have had enough time for the muscle to repair itself. I don't have pins for pin squats. What should I do instead? Use the rack. So put the rack down to where like the squat J hooks down to where you would stand up off the pins, and then just stand up to the pins and then set them back down like on the J hooks, and then set them back down to the J hooks. I jumped well this week. 3 new dunks. That's amazing. I'm deloading. I moved workouts to recover until next dunk session. I had 164 jumps and then sprints. And now I feel super fatigued and my squat sucks. Yeah, that's correct. I feel fatigued. So can I cut sprints? I would do whatever you can to get back to where you were. Like, you could probably just take off like a week, honestly, and you might not even be fully recovered after a session like that. I know you push volumes up, so don't be afraid to like cut back by 50% until you feel better, and just use sensations as a gauge. That's what I would do. That's what I'd recommend, is just cut the volume in half until you feel like you're back to yourself. You recently touched 11.2. That's amazing. And I don't think it's a problem if you're power jumping. It's probably because you're getting more powerful. What's probably happening is you're finding out it's a better strategy for you. You can jump higher by doing it. And so you're picking that strategy. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not like you're a high jumper or anything like that. You're probably going to be a really fast power jumper. Technique changes as you fatigue. So what probably happened is you did 164 jumps. You're getting fatigued there during the session. Therefore, you pick a different strategy, which is power jumping. Power jumping is giving you more height when you're tired compared to speed jumping, which is highly, highly neural. So if you wanted to maintain the habits of speed jumping, you'd have to cut your sessions way earlier as soon as your technique starts to fall off. Is there a benefit to flat-soled shoes for lifts, especially squats? No. The only time flat shoes work is with ollies, because we don't catch our ollies in a full squat. And what can happen is on the second pull, you'll bump the bar out in front of you, which can make catching a power clean really, really problematic. Elevated shoes are for squatting. It's for deep squats. It's for full cleans. It's for full snatch. It's for front squats. That's why we use them. So if for deads or pulls or stuff like that, if you want to wear a flat shoe, you can. Do you not have to worry about imbalances in the arch? The imbalances in the rec fem, rest of the quads, since usually all the exercises apart from leg extensions will extend the hip simultaneously while extending the knee. Worry about imbalances. So sprinting is going to address that, but there isn't, like in jumping, you're going to use the rec fem irrespective of whether or not you're doing a multi-joint exercise or not a multi-joint exercise. So like, even if you're just doing leg extensions, you're still using the rec fem. If you did want to load it more, you could slide your legs forward so that your hip flexors are working a bit. But all of the other general work in there, like sprinting, the A skips, B skips, high knee runs, whatever else, that's going to load the rec fem in a specific way. I'm not, like, rarely are we going to be doing things, at least off the top of my head, I have to think about this, where hip flexion is going to be a dictator of performance. Like, it's not going to be a KPI for being faster or jumping higher. Hip flexor strength is not going to dictate that. So your rec fem is still getting loaded, especially in co-contraction off one foot, meaning it's contracting as the hamstring contracts to try to like generate force and pre-contract. So not really. I mean, I know some guys will do like high knee lift to kick out or something like that, but pretty much if you're sprinting, then you're going to get that. Tweak my neck doing power cleans. That's normal. I think what I did was fill the rep rather than the max rep itself. I'll show the video on Thursday. It's just something, yeah, I've experienced it so many times. It's annoying. You'll have like a little bit of a flare up and then it'll go away. Like, I think in 2012, 2013, I had a bad one. I couldn't turn my head to the side for a couple of days and then it goes away. It's pretty normal. Your trap is super active. You probably threw your head back and that's what caused it. It's just like a really fast extension to flexion pattern. And then PFP, finished hypertrophy, posterior dominant, and it's all good. Jumped twice during this cycle. Last time I over jumped a little to see how my body would react for 15 to 20. It's completely safe using either plant. More than that is dangerous at this point. I didn't aggravate my knee. I stopped once I felt discomfort. I also found out I'm terrible at my opposite plant. My question is, what's next for me? It's a good question. So you're in a really unique stage. I think for you, you're kind of like Dom. I probably would treat it where you do a cycle, but you skip the squatting except for 2 days after you jump. So if you jump on Friday, you would squat on Monday, and you basically do like a version of the John Evans special. So for example, we put a cycle in there and your Monday session has power cleans and back squats and RDLs and calf raises, all this stuff and sprinting. You do everything in there except the squats or everything in there on Monday, and maybe you adjust the squats, whatever. Then Wednesday comes in, it's like reverse lunges, power snatch, RDL, 110s or something like that. And then I'm like, okay, now you're going to take the knee extension work out, and then you're going to try to jump on Friday and then take the ISOs out. And that way you can do like your goal when you're adjusting a program, and this goes for all of you guys, is the plan should always plan B should be as close as possible to plan A. If you have to like make those small adjustments, that's fine. That's not even a big deal. I would encourage you to do that. That's what Dan Paff taught me so many times. I've done so many times for you guys and all my athletes. That is the number one key to adjusting programs when you feel like this. You move into a different cycle. I think for you, I have a progression that would work. It is something that, again, you still have to follow what your intuition, your body's telling you. So like, hey, you feel something here or whatever else, like pretty much you know that you can only handle 15 to 20 jumps and you can only squat twice a week. That's going to be where we're going moving forward. I can actually upload that for you now. And yeah, it's still going to be very focused on that though. It's still going to be very focused on posterior chain and lower leg and things like that, because we want to increase your capacity as much as we can while not destroying your knee.
I feel like my weight room numbers and jumping only got better because of better technique and not because I got stronger. Is that normal? Yeah, that's completely normal. Keep training and following the laws of adaptation, and you're going to eventually get stronger. So if you don't know what the laws of adaptation are, I mean, the important one is progressive overload. If you are truly following the percentages in the training, and what I mean by that, if it says do 80% of your squat and you're actually doing 80%, progressive overload is naturally built into the program. The interesting thing is that getting stronger from technique changes doesn't transfer to jumping. Like that doesn't mean that you physiologically became a different organism. That just means you are moving differently and now you can squat more. Now, it could have implications in that it'll be a more intense stimulus so that you can get more benefit out of it, right? So like a power clean, if you power clean the right way, it's going to transfer more to jumping over time. But the actual strength increase leads to jumping higher when it's like a physiological, like your cross-sectional area became greater, you became more efficient with your nervous system. All that say, it is normal. I deloaded where I maxed out and I was still very fatigued in those sessions and the session after. Should I continue training hard and use that time as a deload? Yeah, that would be the perfect time to unload actually. And you'll probably be jumping really high when you come back from that. Feeling frustrated. It's been 2 months since I injured my quad, specifically the VMO area. At first, I was making progress, but then I kept getting flare-ups repeatedly, progress and flare-up again and again. Last week, I was feeling much better with no pain during day-to-day activities. I was doing quad sets, basically isometric quad activation regularly, and when I tried squats with a limited range of motion, it felt good. However, when I attempted half squats or went slightly below half squat depth, I experienced a sharp pulling sensation and spasms in my quad muscle. You progressed up the range of motion too quickly. This flare-up happens every time I try to reach a deeper range of motion, preventing me from progressing further. Yeah, I would stay at partial range of motion and increase the weight to where you can like lift heavy and hard with high intent, and then increase the range of motion. Yeah, a guideline I would say for like the quarter squats is you should be able to lift like sets of 5 at 80% of your estimated max with zero pain, and then progress up to a half squat range of motion. Can I do some pull-ups and dips, push-ups, 3 supersets every day with like 3 reps in reserve for grease the groove technique, or is that too fatiguing? When I was younger, I saw a lot of progress with that grease the groove technique. And it actually isn't too fatiguing. I don't think it's as effective as having your own upper body days on the general days. But if you want to experiment with it and you enjoy it, you can try it. And I don't think it will affect your training. Is it beneficial to do ISOs every day regardless of if you have pain in a specific tendon? I like ISOs if you've had a history of tendon pain. I don't think there's a point in doing them if you don't have a history of tendon pain. If you haven't, if you used to have knee pain and now you don't, I still think it's good to maintain that habit. Primarily to improve tendon properties like stiffness. I know HSR has the greatest effect, but do ISOs as well. The biggest changes is going to come from the actual training. Doing the overload eccentric training, super heavy resistance training, doing sub-maximal ISOs isn't going to really move the needle much compared to those things. It's just going to add fatigue. I had a back flare up 6 weeks ago that got a bit better, then got re-aggravated last week. I have been changing my range of motion intensity while also incorporating Gill Big 3 and walks throughout the day. So before reading the rest of it, when it comes to back pain, I like to string together a few months of just training at a partial range of motion, being healthy, improving, adding load, adding intensity before you ever even mess around with increasing range of motion. I've started working, I've been sitting a lot, but I've tried my best to alternate between standing and sitting and going on a walk. I've improved much in the last week. Also wondering if there's anything else I can incorporate to move forward in the rehab process. If you've recently started working, that it's just going to slow the process down, to be honest, especially if you're in a flare up. I would definitely back off the training load even more to adjust for that, to take into account the increase in load from working. Hey, the workouts are going great, but I'm feeling more sore than normal. Is being too sore a bad thing, making me more injury prone? If it's extreme, it can. Specifically with the hamstrings, like if you are extremely sore from like RDLs and stuff like that, and then you go and do like max effort sprinting, that can increase the risk of injury. But as a general rule, if it's actually soreness and not a muscle pull, then that's okay. And you got to keep doing the thing that's making you sore to get less sore over time. And then, what's your thoughts on creatine for jumping higher? It depends a lot on the person. I personally see a lot of benefit from taking creatine in both jumping and lifting. I recommend everybody to try it at least for a month or two to see how much of a responder you are. I honestly think I'm a hyper responder to creatine, but then guys like, John and Austin have tried creatine and they generally tend to gain a lot of weight and it affects their 1 foot jumping. So if you're a 2 footer, more likely that it works because you're not affected by an increase in mass as much. I get higher off a drop step than off running vert with a ball. What can I do? Slow down. I don't even have to look at your jump, to be honest. We'll look at it, but I see this problem so much. You have to slow down your approach. So you're probably running in too fast and then you're like planting your foot out in front of you and then losing our momentum, and then it turns into as much speed as a drop step jump. Slow down, speed will come with time. Hey coaches, should the calorie deficit amount depend on the cycle? Any recommended values? John, I actually want to hear your take on this.
Yes, you do want to periodize intake with the cycle that you're on. So if you're on a higher volume one, you're going to need to be taking in more carbohydrates. If you're trying to lose weight though, you generally want to have higher protein intake. So for example, like in my case, I'm basically chronically always cutting. I want my protein intake to be upwards of 2 grams per kilogram and the bare minimum. That basically means that I have to have a crazy high protein consumption throughout the day. I'm going to require to take essentially 60 grams of protein in the form of a shake at some point, maybe late at night. But you generally don't want to cut when you're trying to jump high. You want to lose weight before you are either training too hard or because you'll oftentimes get hurt. And you also don't want to cut in season because you won't have any energy to actually perform well. But most athletes end up just losing weight in season anyways because the intensity is so high. So take that for what you will. I think that answered all the question. I couldn't find it, but I can take over here. Competition on Sunday. What are the biggest things I need to focus on in the coming weeks, coming days? I would focus on resting. Focus on doing as little as possible. If you want to perform your best, the best thing you can do is do less. The hay's in the barn. It's not about adding anything. It's about taking things away and trusting the work that you've already put in. And then visualize. Visualizing is really good. My dog just showed up. She wants pet. Hey coaches, I've tested yesterday. I got my squat to 150, 5 kilos lower than my PR, which is also my last test. I also tested a hang clean 100. My power clean is 102. 30 meter went from 4.2 to 4.4. What caused the decreases in squat and sprints? Fatigue. You're still super fatigued. That tells me you need to unload probably. I'd have to look at your cycle. It could also be what you were trying to address, but I'm almost positive it's just because the training volume added up and your body's pretty tired. Also possible that, 150 is pretty good. I'd have to see like how you did the 150. Oh yeah, this is just hard ass training. So your last cycle, it makes sense that you would have tested well because the focus was max strength, max power. This one, we're more so switching to like faster eccentric emphasis. So that's why you have this fast barbell split squats. That's why you have power snatch or hang power clean. So your eccentric indices should have gone up. But the sprinting, I think, is just chronic fatigue. The intensity of what you did is really high, like really, really high. We're going to progressively decrease the loading of those things so that you will recover in the coming weeks. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. If you notice that you're still kind of like fatigued going into next week, then we can take another week to like fully unload you and retest. But for now, stay the course. Fluctuations in testing happen. You're not always going to have your best test week after a 4-week cycle. I used to see it all the time at Athletic Lab. I'm 5'10", 167. I squat 242 and power clean 154. I plateaued around 30 and I want to know, what should I focus on? You definitely need to get your squat up. You need to squat well above 2 times body weight. That's the first and foremost thing. And power clean also needs to be at least one. Isaiah's like 1.7 times body weight for perspective. So your vertical is right where it should be based on your strength numbers. You don't have any deficits. You just need to get stronger. Hey guys, I'm about a month and I'm sorting out how this all works. I lifted yesterday. My left hip is incredibly sore. This happened before, but I thought it was related to an earlier jump session. Is this a common issue? Should I be asking in the private chat? Definitely always reach out to the chat. If you have questions, you can always come to the call and get an answer from me, but definitely reach out to the chat. And it depends on where it is, depends on how deep it is in your hip, depends on what you were doing. It could be a labrum thing. Typically what happens in the labrum, you have cartilaginous tissue, they slide past each other. And if you go into too deep a position, it can be very provocative on that tissue and sometimes cause like a little bit of a tear. Now, it's not a big deal. I partially tore my labrum when I was like 16 and I'm 31 now and I had no issues. What you need to do is not repeat whatever you did that caused that flare up in the first place. Also, I see that people know what cycle are on. Is there an overview of this? There's not an overview. I think people probably just ask around. I think people probably just, they do their due diligence or ask the coaches. If you want to know more about the cycle that you're on, just ask the coaches. Oh, the school community does have a
Classroom jump
video.
training course,
Yeah.
strength training master class, THP training cycles explained. And I show exactly how to tell what cycle you're on.
Yeah. The jump stop cue was a game changer for me. Felt like I was putting on the brakes instead of doing a jump squat. I know Isaiah used that. I know it works for some people really well. It tends to get their last plant really quick and stuff like that. PR power clean, bad form. James Thompson, should I be jumping higher off one or two? For me, dunking is easier off one. For 2 foot, I can get about the same, but it's harder to hold the ball. Also, how can I get 2 hands better? I can get high enough to get 2 hands, but tend to come short more. When you put your other hand up, it's going to be harder to reach as high. So that's the biggest reason why. This is a shitty solution. Well, it's the truth. You need to jump higher. 10-5 is, you can do it sometimes, but try holding the ball with your fingertips and then just like getting like a finger, literally just like your fingertips dunking the ball. That's the easiest way to do two-handers initially. 2 foot's probably harder because you're not jumping as high or you aren't cuffing your hand down as much. Sometimes off 1 foot, it's natural for guys because they do a lot of layups and layup lines. When you start to go to 2 foot, it can be difficult to get the ball actions the same. So try to pump the ball up really high with 2 hands and then switch to 1 and just flick it downwards through the front of the rim. I'm a 1 foot power jumper. Can I translate to 2? You certainly can. Yeah, I've done it, especially if you're mobile. What are the most effective ways to treat and handle FHL tendonitis? It's probably be tendinopathy, but the first thing is definitely going to be flexor hallucis longus. This one's a bitch. This one's annoying because you're always on your foot. You need to unload it as much as possible and you need to only do isos for it. So we had a guy he like tore his and it took months to get it better. If yours is just really like light, then just start with isos. Do toe curl isos or toe spread isos. That is a great way to start. You can do that 3 times a day, every 6 hours, and the tendon will adapt. And then you can start to do like calf raises at body weight, but double leg, and then go all the way up on the toe. That's my question wrong last time. I want to build more muscle in my upper and core. Is it fine if I skip the circuits on Tuesday and do high intensity dips and pull-ups? Of course. Yep. Do you have guidance for reach goals for different types of dunks? I can touch 10.7 and 10.10 on my best days. Windmill is a milestone. You should be able to windmill at 10.10. I never used the weight room series before this. I don't know what weight I should start with. Always light. Always light, and send videos of everything to the chat. That's the best thing you can do. Today I did my first workout. I have back pain, 6 out of 10. I did engage my core. My mobility is very bad. Send videos. We're going to unload you. You need to walk and we'll figure it out. It is going to be problem solving. Staying on the calls is really helpful so we can look at the stuff. So get here early or and be ready to wait, or like be ready to be here for the full hour. That's the best thing I can tell you. How high would you say you need to be able to touch to be dunking consistently in traffic? Oh, that's a tough one. That is really tough because it depends on the person. Like Royal can like dunk in games and she probably touches like 10.6. Isaiah,
I think 11 off a short approach.
yeah, you could probably dunk consistently. Can I jump rope for my warm-ups? No, yeah, you can if you really want. Sometimes it bothers people's Achilles. My block foot is always late. I kind of get enough time to bring it around when I jump up into the penultimate. When I have a low shin angle on my support leg, I get like 0 flight time and can't bring my block foot around fast enough. I have seen this happen before. You might need a little more flight time, so push your hips up, but then let your shoulders rotate down in flight. Wanted to get some updates as to what the next week of cycling will look like. So you just finished up power, like kind of elastic work. Now you're going to fast eccentric work in the weight room.